Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Let's talk about understanding shoulder disorders, anatomy, and the claims process. The shoulder is the most mobile joint in the human body. It allows you to lift, to rotate, to throw, reach overhead. But that mobility comes at a cost. The joint is inherently unstable. So I want you to think with me about some basic anatomy. The shoulder joint has three bones: the humerus, or the upper arm, the scapula, or the shoulder blade, and the clavicle, or the collarbone. Think of the joint as a shallow cereal bowl. And I want you to think of the joint as going into that cereal bowl. The top of the humerus is shaped like a ball, and it will sit inside the bowl of the scapula. Now, the ligaments, the tendons, and the rotator cuff muscles keep that ball centered, while the clavicle will provide support so that the arm can move freely. The shallow socket, again, the cereal bowl, is why shoulder disorders are common. The ligaments and the muscles have to maintain an extraordinary amount of work to maintain stability. And when one part of this system is damaged, whether it's the rotator cuff or the capsule around the joint or the ligaments, the entire shoulder can lose strength, stability, and function. Now, from a disability insurance carrier or plan standpoint, this matters because many jobs require frequent use of the arms and shoulders, lifting boxes, typing on a computer, assisting patients, operating machinery, or even reaching overhead to stock. A damaged shoulder doesn't make this type of occupation painful. Sometimes it can make it absolutely impossible. But here's the catch. I have found in my many years of practice that disability insurance companies and plans don't always understand this anatomy, and they often rely on narrow disability duration guidelines. Now, these guidelines, by the way, written by liar for hire, peer-reviewed doctors who have formed their own companies, these guidelines, they give conservative estimates of how long recovery should take after surgery or injury. And carriers will treat them as absolutes, as if every person heals the same way, when in reality, recovery is highly individualized. For example, in the case of Hall versus AT&T Umbrella Benefit Plan number 3, Hall had a very serious shoulder disorder, impingement, arthropathy, and a labral tear. She underwent 2 surgeries and physical therapy. And while her range of motion improved slightly, her pain and functionality didn't. And her doctors restricted her from reaching overhead, lifting more than 15 pounds, or even flexing and extending her neck for long periods. In other words, she couldn't work. But the disability insurance carrier saw something different. They looked at her medical records and saw the word improvement. They noted normal MRIs, normal cervical spine examinations, and they concluded there wasn't any objective evidence to support her restrictions and denied her claim. Now, she appealed, but she failed to submit new evidence, and the federal judge sided with the carrier, pointing to this lack of objective findings. Her benefits were gone. So let's talk about the lessons that could and should have been learned in this particular case. So let's go back to the anatomy of the shoulder. Yes, there was normal MRIs, normal spine examinations, but I didn't see in this particular case whether there were any x-rays taken to address the status of the bones. In other words, was there still impingement? Was there still arthropathy? Was the labral tear really healed? There is no indication that she had a MRI arthrogram of the shoulder, which would also have helped delineate any continuing problems objectively within the terms within the shoulder, based on the shoulder's anatomy. Secondly, her doctor should have documented her restrictions in detail in terms of the functionality. Was there limited range of motion? Was there difficulty moving her arm in front of her, over her head, to the side, behind her arm? Did she have problems with weakness when that arm was extended or kept in a static position? Now, one of the ways, of course, to get to that would have been a functional capacity evaluation, which is an objective measure that can be used to determine the functionality of the shoulder. Or she could have potentially gotten an IME by a shoulder specialist to address these functional restrictions and limitations and the objective basis for the same. And of course, She could have gotten a personal statement consistent with her medical evidence about her difficulty functioning. Maybe even a video would have been appropriate. And lastly, of course, an experienced ERISA disability attorney would have helped her make the legal and medical case that she was disabled as that term was defined by her policy or plan, but put together the winning medical evidence to rebut all of the reasons that the disability carrier created to deny this claim. Otherwise, they're going to play this medical improvement game and you're going to lose. So now that we've set the stage for some of these games, we understand some basic anatomy, we understand some of the games that carriers play. Let's move into the first major shoulder disorder that we see in disability claims, the rotator cuff problem. Let's take a break.
Have you been robbed of your peace of mind by your disability insurance carrier? You owe it to yourself to get a copy of Robbed of Your Peace of Mind, which provides you with everything you need to know about the long-term disability claims process. Request your free copy of the book at caveylaw.com today.